Good morning. Hey, it's John here, Be Your Biology. And today I wanted to talk about the scale. So, by show of hands, how many people weigh themselves? And how many people weigh themselves every day? How many people stop weighing themselves when they don't appreciate the feedback? And how many people beat themselves up over what they see on the scale? Okay, so if you're like me, the scale can be, both friend and enemy. But your weight is one of many so-called biometrics that also include, say, your waist measurement, your waist to height ratio, your BMI, body mass index, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your body fat, and so on. Now today, I just want to talk about your weight and the scale. And my weight is one of the two things that I measure pretty much every day, pretty much with regularity. I don't miss too many days unless I'm not at home, leaving early on a sawmill job, whatever those things might be. But when you step on the scale, well, and I do it first thing in the morning, no clothes on, so same time, same place, and I do that pretty much every morning. And what we're looking for in the longer term is trends. So depends, of course, on whether or not you're trying to, gain weight, maintain your weight, or drop weight. Obviously, we want to see the scale reflect those things that we're after. But a trend is not a day, and a trend is probably not even a week. A trend is probably 2 weeks or more to establish, that trend. I would say probably 3 weeks or more. So one of the things you have to do is stop beating yourself up about the feedback that the scale's giving you. So let's talk for a minute about that daily feedback. So it's feedback, it's not failure. If you put on 3-4 pounds overnight, okay, I'm going to argue that this is not about how much you put into your mouth the day before. This is about what you put into your mouth the day before. So if you're seeing that happen regularly or irregularly, I see it, start keeping a food log. So what's going on there is it's water weight. I mean, we throw that around loosely, but it is water weight. And this can vary for, I'll just mention a couple of different reasons. One is your electrolyte balance or imbalance in your body. So maybe you have not been salting your food, you don't have salt in your diet, whatever that is, and your blood volume goes down, honestly, as a result of that. If you start then ingesting salt, as I recommended, 3 to 5 grams of salt today, like salt per day, like 2.5 teaspoons, especially when you're transitioning from a high carb diet to a low carb diet, you want to add sodium for a number of reasons. But when you do that, guess what? Your blood volume goes up and your weight goes up. And that might show up as a blip on the scale. But once let's say you're stable from an electrolyte point of view, and you're not running marathons and shedding, gallons of water weight and trying to recover that and losing lots of minerals in your sweat and not replacing that and thereby seeing, electrolyte imbalance. Let's say your electrolytes are balanced and you're still seeing these 2, 3, 4 pound swings up and down on the scale. It's what you're putting in your mouth. and it's basically foods that don't agree with you, and foods that basically trigger your immune system. And this is called inflammatory edema. In other words, you're inflamed, and as a result of that inflammation, you're holding on to water. So edema is like when your feet swell up on a long plane ride or even a long car ride where you've been sitting and you get out of the car and you look down and your ankles are all swollen up, for example. That's edema. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, though, systemic edema, like your whole body is holding on to water. And what I've noticed is I pretty much know what stokes my immune system and what doesn't. And occasionally I'll eat something that I know stokes my immune system, and guess what happens? The next day, 3 days later, whatever, I'm up. I'm up by 3, 4, 5. Last weekend, I went up 8 pounds over the weekend. I did this knowingly. I mean, I'm not saying I should have. Some of these foods are my kryptonites, and I still go to them now and then for various reasons. But on that Monday, I cleaned up my diet. And in 2 days, I lost 4 pounds. In 4 days, I'd lost the whole 8 pounds. Now, is that fat that I'm losing? Is it fat that I put on? The answer is no to both those questions. It was inflammatory edema. A pound of fat requires about 3,500 calories excess to what your body needs. So let's say you overate by 350 calories a day. It would take you 10 days of overeating to put on 1 pound. You don't put on 2, 3, 4, 8 pounds overnight because of how much you ate. Again, it's what you ate. So, and these things, as soon as you identify these triggers, the autoimmune protocol avoid list is a good place to start. I've written articles on that subject. I used it when I was first diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. These are foods that cause a lot of people trouble from an immune response point of view. Okay, it's not just you, it's not just me. It's fully 10% or more of the population, at least. So, coming back to your weight now, I would just say, keep in mind a couple things. One, you're looking for trends. If you're trying to lose weight, 3 weeks go by and you're plateaued, you probably need to change things up a bit. Similarly, if you're trying to gain, it's not happening. You're trying to lose, and it's not happening. You're trying to maintain, and you're going up, you're going down. Whatever those things are. If it's a long-term trend you're looking for, don't get too excited about anything that's less than 2-3 weeks in the rearview mirror. If, however, you're having these blips, definitely start keeping a food log. Keep a food log. What did you put in your mouth? And put in there some detail. And again, the amounts aren't necessarily important. It's the what. Did you eat grains? Did you eat legumes? Peanuts are one of my triggers for weight gain. Dairy triggers some people. Eggs trigger some people. Those are basically the only 2 animal foods on the avoid list. Dairy and eggs, that's it. The rest of them are all plant foods. And that comes down to basically grains, legumes, class vegetables called nightshades, which is tomatoes, eggplant, all peppers, etc. All stuff I love. Fortunately, nightshades don't trigger me. Anti-inflammatory drugs can cause a problem with your gut lining and therefore predispose you to this immune system aggravation. So be very careful with aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen, Motrin, etc. Those are all so-called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Nuts and seeds are another one. Peanuts are not a nut, they're a legume. I'm talking tree nuts and seeds. You know where tree nuts are found. That's almonds and walnuts and cashews and so on and so forth. Seeds are are basically where we normally find those are spices. Spices are basically seeds. Herbs are, of course, the green parts of plants dried out, crushed up, powdered, and so on. So, at first I eliminated everything. I started adding back in, and basically I've still eliminated grains, legumes, including peanuts, and dairy. Does aggravate me if I either am eating too much low-fat dairy, like 2% milk, forget about it. Anything low-fat dairy, avoid it like the plague. If you're going to eat dairy, eat the high-fat dairy. Hard cheeses, butter, stuff like that is less, aggravates my immune system less than the softer cheeses and the lower-fat products. So what I want to encourage you to do is accept the results of the scale as feedback, not failure. On a daily basis, you're looking for these blips and what might have caused these blips. And on a 2-week basis and beyond, you're looking for trends. And is your weight doing what you would have it do? If not, we can talk about what you might change to get that trend to move in the direction that you want to move. If you're at your ideal weight, by the way, it's hard. It's hard to gain weight, and it's hard to lose more weight if you're already at your ideal weight. Your body has its own designs. And so, for example, power lifters, other bodybuilders, people trying to put on lots of weight, it's hard to put on lots of weight in a healthy way. Likewise, it's hard to lose a bunch of weight in a healthy way, again, if you're at your ideal weight. So accept these results as feedback, not failure, and take the necessary actions to get back on track. Okay, that's all for now. I hope you all have a great Independence Day weekend, and we'll see you on the other side.